This video is brought to you by our amazing supporters on Patreon. If you want to join them and help our channel continue, there's a link in the video description. The most popular Blancpain 50 Fathoms homage is probably the Seiko SNZH57. It looks fantastic and provides the performance you'd expect from a Seiko 5 for a fraction of the price of the watch it's imitating. Chances are you've probably heard of that watch before. However, I'd be willing to bet you've never seen this one. Believe it or not, the Russians have had a crack at the famous Swiss design, producing some interesting results. Is this watch as good as it looks? Keep watching to find out. Okay, so the title gives away one secret. Indeed, it's the popular brand Vostok that are responsible for this effort. This brand dates way back to the 1940s and had a close association to the Soviet military until its dissolution in 1991. These watches were often a go-to for troops due to their surprising durability and water performance, which we'll touch on later. I'll link this watch in the video description if you want to check one out for yourself. Now let's get on with the review. You'll notice what appears to be the word Vostok on the simple black box. This is simply Russian Cyrillic for the word east, which is pronounced in English as Vostok. This particular model seems to be one intended for the Russian domestic market, hence its inclusion here. Funnily enough, I also have a vintage watch from this brand which is different again, this time with Vostok appearing on the dial. Supposedly, this version was used when exporting to several Eastern Bloc countries, including what was then East Germany, where the letter W is pronounced a bit like a V. On the dial, you'll see a different unusual word. That's because this watch is part of the popular Komandirskie line of military dive watches, with that text literally translating to the word commanders. Many Komandirskie watches are smaller than this, with sub 40mm diameters, though this 030787B is a tad bulkier. The dimensions sit at 41.7mm across, with a 50mm depth and 48mm look-to-look, making it wear extremely similarly to its Seiko counterpart. You're certainly going to notice this on wrist, but the short look-to-look size makes this more wearable than you might think. Admittedly, it's too thick for my skinny wrists, but should suit the majority out there, especially given that a portion of the depth is made up by the domed crystal. A weighty feel is provided by the dense stainless steel case, which is brushed throughout. The scalloped bezel is the only area other than the crown to feature a polished finish, which contributes to it lacking any resemblance of grip. It's really tricky to adjust, to be honest, rendering it almost useless for practical purposes. Perhaps that's just this unit, but given how smooth the bezel is, I highly doubt it. Fortunately, the same cannot be said for the signed crown. This is large, extremely grippy, and has some unusual properties. Not only is it screw down to aid the water performance, but it also has the signature wobble found on Vostok watches. While this may feel far from confidence-inspiring, it's actually a conscious decision, designed to protect the movement and stem from excessive lateral forces that may accidentally occur when winding the watch. This is undoubtedly an unusual feature that adds to the personality of these Russian watches. While it is very easy to use, I think I'd probably prefer it if it were about 10% smaller, though beggars can't be choosers. The rear of the case also has a beautiful engraving that you wouldn't expect from a watch at this price point. It certainly looks very Soviet, but I like it. With the screw-down case back and large rubber gasket, you'll easily be able to go swimming or diving in this watch, as it boasts a 200-meter water resistance rating. I'd go as far as to say I've never felt so confident in a watch when it comes to water performance, as in person this really does feel like a tank. Another choice, which is supposedly there to aid the submersive ability, is the domed acrylic over the dial. This distorts when under high pressure, further sealing the watch from the elements. While the piece of plastic here is thick, it's still plastic. Therefore, it is going to scratch very easily. We discussed this in my watch glass guide. My preference is certainly with other materials, though I can't deny that the domed crystal looks fantastic, especially from steep angles. I also can't expect too much considering I only spent £95 on this watch, which in retrospect I think is an absolute bargain. And I tell you what, it doesn't look like a £95 watch. Okay, it doesn't look quite like a 15 grand Blancpain though. I reckon this still looks at home next to many watches at double or triple this price point. While the scalloped bezel is slippery, it looks gorgeous and features a lume pip at the 12 o'clock position. The dial is a slightly lighter tone, more of a deep matte grey I'd say, maintaining the gold numbers at each hour. You'll notice the original 50 Fathoms has a slightly different arrangement to this, so this clearly isn't just a copy and paste job. At each hour you also get tiny applied oblongs and chevrons, which provide some mild luminescence. There's also a dark date window which blends in perfectly with other areas such as the logo and chapter ring. This is pleasing to see on such an inexpensive watch. The simple silver handset also features some moderate lume and looks good, albeit rather plain. I'm pleasantly surprised by the quality of the printing too, which is very precise, especially the text near the 6 o'clock position, which looks very neat even at a macro level. With low price watches, I really think that the presence of a sweeping second hand can make the watch look and feel a little bit more premium, whether that be in the form of a mecha quartz or in this case mechanical movement. Remarkably, Vostok have packed in their in-house 31 jewel automatic movement, making it one of the most affordable ways to acquire a mechanical watch, alongside the likes of Seiko, Orient and some lesser known Chinese brands. This is far from the smoothest tick out there, with a relatively low 19,800 beats per hour or 5.5 beats per second. Nevertheless, this lower beat rate will help prolong the lifespan of the movement, potentially resulting in less servicing requirements over time, versus higher beat movements at least. I think it still looks nicer than a typical 1 tick per second quartz, and the mechanism also adds a good amount of weight to the watch that makes it feel like a higher quality product. For just over £90, I think it's impressive that this is even achievable at all. These Komandirskie watches come in a range of colours and with a variety of straps. I opted for this one with a stainless steel bracelet. I was surprised to discover that outside of the end links, it contains solid links, along with a strong butterfly deploying clasp. Unlike many watches I've covered before, it's obvious this bracelet prioritises function over form. It feels very strong and durable, but doesn't integrate very well with the case in my opinion. The polished flanks and vertical brushing clash with the horizontal brushing on the main body, which is a shame. You'll also notice that in some areas around the lugs, it doesn't sit flush with the case, and a couple of the links are particularly tight too, which I guess are other compromises made to fit such a low price point. Evidently, it's up to you how important these factors are, and like I said, there are lots of other default options to choose from instead. Despite the mediocre bracelet, I still think the watch is great value for money. It looks attractive, feels durable, and is fairly priced. It's no surprise to me that these watches are so collectible, but do be prepared for slow delivery. While at the time of recording this is available on Amazon in the US, in Europe this particular model is only available on eBay directly from Russia or Ukraine, meaning you can expect to wait several weeks for your parcel. And I don't think that's just as a result of COVID. I'll link the online store that I bought from in the description. Just make sure whichever seller you're buying from that they've got decent feedback. But personally, I think the watch is worth the wait. It's a little rougher around the edges than something like a Seiko, but is in some regards better and has a bit more punch and personality in my opinion. I'd certainly rather spend under £100 on this rather than way over 10 grand on a Blancpain. I'd love to know what you think.